All right, you guys know your stuff. You know what you're doing, and most everybody checks in electronically. All right, that's awesome. Let's see what we've got here. So far, we've got myself. We got Chris, KB2IDX. Oh, hold on. Let me do it this way. This is easier. Oh, yeah, I can read them faster. Okay, we got myself, Chris, KF0OTF. Todd, thanks for being here bright and early. W1, BKW, KF0NYC, KF0IGK, AC0XW, N6RNJ, N2BEZ, KF0OWB, ZL2 Bravo Echo Zulu. I'm glad you're here, Paul. I'm going to be using you tonight. Well, I'll be calling on you. AE0NV, KI5YNS, W0KVZ, W82NYY, VE4DBZ, and let me see how I'm doing. I'm doing fine. K0GIO, K Oscar 6, AQP, KN4, FM, K0SMR, and KE9BJL, and we added Terry, KC8GEF. All right, let's get this thing started. We got, about 2.5 minutes to go. And let me see if Chris is almost ready to start. KB2IDX, over to you from W0SUN. Yeah, why not? We can start a couple minutes early. Good evening, everyone. KB2IDX, along with W0SUN, and welcome to the Digital Learning Net. I am located in Bloomington, Indiana, and Bucky is in the Denver, Colorado area. We meet every Wednesday, same time, right here, same place, right here. And we talk about all kinds of digital stuff, good information. We take your questions and comments, and as well. There are times when we'll do just talk about a specific subject, and other times we'll devote to questions that anyone might have. So that's what we're here for. And as Bucky mentioned, we prefer to take check-ins from Hand.Live, but it's not required. If you want to do so over here, we do it a couple of times, once in the beginning and once at the end. So hang in there. But if you go to ham.live, ham.live, any browser, got a Gmail account, there's a button for that. And if you have a different email, there's a box where you can put that in and they'll send you a link. And follow the prompts and you should be able to get in. If not, let us know. We will find a way. Let me reset. There are a number of ways you can listen to this net, even if you're not a ham. I've already posted a few links in there. The Brandmeister hose line is a really good source, especially for people who don't have a ham radio license, or even a ham that doesn't have a radio. And in my case, that's how I listened when I was in the hospital for a month. That's what kept me going until I was able to get somebody to bring my laptop and a couple of HTs, and I was back in business. But that Brandmeister hose line is a great thing. And I don't know whether Todd's YouTube channel is up, but if it is, it's kf0owv.net, and there's a link for you to click on there, and it'll take you directly to that page. So that's also another way. Make sure that you check out all the great resources that Colorado Digital has. ColoradoDigital.net is the main website. Lots of good info being updated all the time. And there's also a page where down at the bottom you can donate if you'd like to. It does cost money to keep this system running, so any donations are welcome. Okay, reset one more time. Alrighty, remember that it's a directed net. Please route your traffic through net control. And before we get started, I'll be passing it back over to Bucky here in a minute. Does anyone out there have any announcements that may be of interest to the group? All right, very cool. I'm still watching that FTX1. Still nothing but intense irritation that they're making us hang by a thread. Bucky, it's back to you. We just picked up a few more folks in the chat room. And I shall turn it over to you, sir. W0SUN from KV2IDX.
All right, thanks a lot, Chris. KV2IDX, this is Bucky, W0SUN. Like Chris said, I'm here in Littleton, Colorado, which is just south of Denver. And here on the Digital Learning Net every Wednesday night. We've got more check-ins here really quick. Let me get through those. We got 29 check-ins so far. We added Rich, K0EB, and Steve, W5STC, Brad, KV0LSM, good to see you on tonight. Dave, KF0LGZ, and Don, WX4 Charlie. Everybody, thanks for jumping in and joining us so far. It's great to have you. All right, I do have a couple of announcements, a couple of things that you might be interested. First of all, we're going to have a future net on M17. It's time. We've had a couple in the past, even in the early days when M17 just started. A lot of has happened since then. It's pretty exciting. So actually, KC Wide, America KC Wide, just want to let you know, they've added an M17 reflector, which is pretty exciting. And we got to go ahead to add an M17 reflector over here as well. That'll be coming hopefully sooner than later. So that's exciting stuff. M17 has made a lot of progress over the years. All right, let me give you the next item. All right, so the reflector, if you want to get on M17, I think the quickest way to do it is if you have an Android phone. I like to use my Android phone for M17 right now. Use DroidStar. And even, at least I haven't used DroidStar for a while, and I have an old version. When I used DroidStar in the past, even I had to add codecs, and you have to have a codec for Fusion, a codec for DMR, a codec, and these are things that give you the ability to get into the digital realm. So before you even add those codecs for YSF, D-Star, DMR, it came with the open source codec for M17, and that's what M17, it's all open source, it's all open. No manufacturer, it's all open for ham radio, built by ham radios for ham radio operators. So built by ham radio operators, that kind of thing. So pretty exciting stuff. I use DroidStar. The reflector for KCY is M17-KCW, Module A for Kansas City Y. Pretty exciting. All right, we added, I think I left off N9DYO, WD0HDR, K0YK, K2AS, and N0KU. So we've got 33 right now. All right, let me tell you about the other announcement. All right, for those of you who have followed the XLX 303 and Colorado HD, if you remember the Colorado hotspot discussion that we had a few years ago, that was before the Digital Learning Net, run by Bud W0RMT, and even before then, just before we added WiresX, and we were mostly DMR, heavy into DMR and D-Star. Then we added Fusion. We had YSF reflectors back in the old days before XLX carried. So back in those days, even before then, we had all the DMR repeaters that are part of Colorado Digital. The Colorado Digital organization is a group of guys. It's not a club. It's not a. It's a loose group of kind of a loose group of individuals that like playing radio and like setting up things. So even before the XLX 303, before these DMR repeaters were part of Colorado Digital, they were part of an organization called W0DMR. That was our kind of our, so to speak, quote, club website, club call sign, W0DMR. We had a W0DMR website, and that website was w0dmr.org. Well, I have to tell you, that website is no longer. We don't have that website, W0DMR. We have let that call sign go. So we've mostly updated our webpage. All the links to W0DMR are gone except for one, and that'll change here really quickly. So that website is gone, the call sign is gone, and all those repeaters are officially part of Colorado Digital. We do have a, quote, club call sign. Let me reset. So even though it's not a club, we do have a Colorado Digital multi-protocol call sign, and this is Colorado Digital Multi-Protocol. That's our official name. And the call sign is W0CDM, Colorado Digital Multi-Protocol, right? W0CDM. So when you see that call sign on the dashboard, that's probably because we are linking systems into the network. Mostly you're going to see that when people are transmitting on All-Star. So there's a few modules linked into All-Star. When you transmit on All-Star, you're going to see that call sign, W0CDM. I can see Gary right now on Module A. That's our Colorado Severe Weather Room. And there's a lot of severe weather in eastern Colorado right now, and he's doing updates on that right now using the W0CDM call sign. All right. Also on AMCOM, when we key up on XLX 303, which is tied into AMCOM, you're going to see that call sign quite a bit over on AMCOM on that system, and that is talk group 420, which is tied into Special K, Module K, which is also tied into TGIF on 420. So you're going to see that call sign over there sometimes. So whenever you see that call sign, that's what that is. So W0DMR, no longer. W0CDM is here to stay. All right. Let's see. I've added, let me reset before I time out. All right, we've added Steve, KA1CNF, Mike, Michael, KD9YOO, and Jamie. Good to have all you guys here today, KQ1USA. Also, we've added a new repeater. The list of repeaters keeps growing and growing. You can see our repeaters page over on coloradodigital.net. And we just added a interesting repeater. It is 439.450 over on Horsetooth Mountain near Fort Collins, Colorado, which is north of Denver. And this repeater is a little different than our other digital repeaters. So we have digital repeaters linked into Brandmeister. We've got digital repeaters linked into Fusion. We got WiresX repeaters. Now we have a new repeater that uses an MMDVM controller. So in a sense, it's like a high-powered, very nice place to a lot of coverage, and you can link into just like a hotspot, but you can link into DMR, Fusion, you can link into DStar, and you can link into Amcom and other places, not just Brandmeister. So that's a really cool repeater. So we've added that. That's pretty neat. So we'll be adding that we'll put that information into the chat room. All right, let's see what else I got. Really quick. All right, this is W0SUN. I'm going to send it back over to Chris, KB2IDX. If you have anything or any announcements, go ahead, Chris. This is W0SUN.
Okay, Bucky. Well, I think it's a good point to mention that WPSD has gone through some interesting changes the last week, and let us know if anybody has had any issues caused by the changes. And you would notice that your display may be just sitting there. Your hotspot works, but the display may be just sitting there. I finally was able to figure it all out, and basically the update changed something, and I actually had a couple of quick conversations on Discord with Chip about it, and he fixed it that quickly, but you also had to reboot. And there's other things about it, but I would wait and see if anybody has any of those issues before I go crazy on all that info, because I probably went 10 times further than I actually had to, which is just par for the course when you're trying to figure stuff out. You know, and in the end, it seems to be a simple solution. But at any rate, that's what's on my mind. I've been following it, and I recommend folks that do use the WPSD interface follow the changelog, and if you have to get in touch with them to try and get help, make sure you do it the right way. Follow their rules. They can be very firm and adamant about getting help the correct way. So, Bucky, that's about it from here. And if any questions arise, I'll be here. I lost my voice a little earlier today, and it seems to be okay now. So if I disappear, that's what happened. But it seems to be okay. Back to you, Bucky. W0SUN. KB2IDX.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris, KV2IDX. All right. This is Bucky W0SUN continuing with the Digital Learning Net. Now, if you were here last week, it got a little technical. Actually, before we do that even, I'm excited for tonight's topic. Let me first ask, before we go that far, let me see if anybody has any other comments or questions. Anybody on the net? We've got 37 of you guys, Gabe, KE5JKI, and Kevin, AI4X. We got you on, and thanks for joining us, you guys. So, fantastic. All right, anybody with any questions or comments for the net? If you got any questions on anything digital, please come out with your call sign. Okay, real good. So, what I want to cover tonight is how we navigate on a hotspot with DMR, especially with WPSD. If you have a DMR radio and you got WPSD, it's pretty simple to navigate with Brandmeister. We're kind of used to Brandmeister. Brandmeister is the most popular digital network in the world, worldwide, still very popular in the USA. In fact, we embrace Brandmeister wholeheartedly, and it is a huge part of our network. We're excited about all the other things that are happening in the DMR world as well, with other networks out there. There is a new network. Well, it's fairly new. It really came into full use last year. About April. It's been around. They came on officially in April of 2024. I know they were getting things going before that, but officially it started in April of 2024, and now it's a year old officially. So that's AMCOM, and there's a lot of you that go out to AMCOM. In fact, we are linked into AMCOM on a couple of our modules, Module I and Module K. We've got Talk Group 31088 over on AMCOM. It's not tied into Brandmeister, but it's a separate network. But it's the same, just so it's easy to remember. Don't get confused. But it's Talk Group 31088, and it's linked into Module I. So if you want the easy way into AMCOM, just link into Module I or Module K. And we've got Talk Group 31088 and Talk Group 420. And it's not linked into WiresX. So on AMCOM, we do not have a WiresX link at this time. Maybe in the future. Stand by. Okay, we do have WiresX. Somebody's asking in the chat room, and they got answered. But the WiresX room for Colorado HD is 43674 if you have WiresX. Otherwise, if you have a hotspot, it's number 30300. And you can get linked into Colorado HD that way. And we call it Colorado HD because that's our named talk group on Brandmeister. When we came up with that talk group, we had the Colorado Hotspot discussion net, and we just keep using this talk group after all that. So it's kind of a discussion for anything digital. So yeah, thanks for letting us bring the new net over here. All right. Let's see. Where am I going? So AMCOM, talk group 420 and talk group 31088, which is tied into our XLX303 reflector on different modules. All right, with that, let me reset. Okay, so last week I started talking about the XLX303 reflector. And this net gets a little bit technical. Tomorrow night on KCY we do the Let's Talk Digital Net, and we try not to get extremely technical on that. However, we can't control what questions are asked. So sometimes the questions lead us down a certain rabbit hole, and it does get a little bit technical. We get a lot of questions on Thursday night. We don't get as many questions on Wednesday night, which is interesting. But that allows us to talk about more technical things. This net has been around a long time, and we do tend to get a little bit more technical. So last week, we got a little bit into the D-Star navigation. A lot of you don't use D-Star. Maybe some of you do. But we covered a little bit of linking procedures with D-Star. The XLX303 came out of the D-Star world. Hopefully you tuned in last week, and we talked about the history of the XLX303 reflector. I'm not going to go into that today, but this is what I want to talk about. All right. We do have our chat room open for anybody that's coming in recently, and it's ham.live. Come on in on ham.live, ham.live. All right. So tonight, last week we covered D-Star. Tonight, I'm going to just go in and with the gusto, we're going to cover Fusion later, but tonight we're going to cover DMR navigation. We're going to start with the XLX reflector, and then maybe take it on a little bit differently with other networks. So really quick, Paul from New Zealand, ZL2 Bravo Echo Zulu. I see that you're checked in. Are you there tonight? Are you near the radio? Over to Paul from W0SUN.
Yes, W0SUN, ZL2BZ. Yes, I'm here there. Thanks, Bucky. Back to you, W0SUN, ZL2BZ, over.
Great. So I don't see you on Brandmeister very often. However, tonight, believe it or not, you're on Brandmeister by default because you're linked into Brandmeister, but I know you're not connected with Brandmeister. So you're connected directly to the XLX reflector. Even though we have a Brandmeister talk group 31088, you don't come in that way. What I want you to talk about really briefly is when you're going on the other network, and I'm going to use AMCOM for an example. When you come in with your hotspot, how is it that you connect to AMCOM with your hotspot, with your DMR radio? Can you briefly talk about that, and then I'll try to summarize. So I just want to know your procedure for getting into AMCOM or System X with the QuadNet array. So I think you don't connect directly to AMCOM. You directly connect to the QuadNet array DMR repeaters and the master servers there, but they pretty much operate the same way. So how do you connect to those other DMR networks?
Yeah, Roger, Bucky. Thank you very much for the question. Yes, well, I normally, when I'm connecting up to AMCOM or to QuadNet, I connect directly to their servers which you can find in your configuration. And let's have a look. I'll just look in the configuration now and give you an example. For example, System X or QuadNet. Basically, QuadNet. Let's have a look. QuadNet have a number of servers. They're listed in your hotspot setup under the HB link, and it's HB US QuadNet, and they have a number of servers. Like Georgia is HB US QuadNet number 1, and Ohio is HB QuadNet number 2. And they're the only 2 servers that they have left at the moment. So they've got some other networks. They've got some other listings there, but the listing is somewhat out of date. So Georgia and Ohio are the only 2 servers for QuadNet. Anyway, once you set up that, you basically key up the talk group that you want, and away you go. So if I want to go on talk group 320 or 321, I'll just key up the talk group, and it just works. So it's a bit like Brandmeister, and the timeout, you can set a timer there, but basically the default timer is 60 minutes. So if I key up 320, when I go onto QuadNet, or I key up 320 when I go into AMCOM, that basically will stay there for about an hour, and then hang up, basically. So it's a bit better than the Brandmeister with their 15 minutes. So that's the story, Bucky. So that's simply the QuadNet and also the AMCOM. Basically, you go on, you select the server that you want, for example, and then you basically you go and you key up the talk group, and away you go. So that's nice and simple. Over.
Oh, simple for you. You've been doing this for a while. All right. So really quick, let me ask you another question. What is the prefix for QuadNet System X when you link into there? And I'm going to give you I'll put a link to OpenQuad here so you can see what I'm talking about. But we've got DMR gateway mappings. So what is the prefix for QuadNet or AMCOM? That's all I wanted you to answer. What is the prefix that you use?
Yeah, Roger, Bucky. I don't use any prefix because I set those particular networks up as a primary DMR network. And that's one of the advantages I have with the WPSD. But if you're stuck with say Brandmeister as your default, then basically you will find that you will have to add a prefix to those talk groups. So I don't have that currently configured, so I can't tell you exactly what those prefixes are. But I normally set the default network, the primary DMR network, to DMR Plus, free DMR HB link, and then I use that and I use the talk groups without any prefix needed on them. Over.
Okay, so I know you can set it up so you don't have to use any prefixes. So you can set it up that way based on your configuration of your hotspot. So if you use AMCOM a lot, you can just set that up. So Chris, KB2IDX, when you go in with DMR, explain how you get in. So see, that's what I thought. Prefix is 5. Oh, wait, that's for X. No, that's for System X. Yep. So the prefix would be 5. So, Vale, I know you get on AMCOM. Let me just go over to you because that's the answer that I wanted. So 5 is TGIF, but 5 is also System X. So I'm getting different answers in the chat room. So I got to straighten this out. So it is confusing what's going on in the chat room because somebody says it's 5, somebody says it's 6 or 4. So let me just call on Vail, W0KVZ. I know you use your DMR radio to get into AMCOM. You go into AMCOM directly. So over to you, Vail. Let me hear what you do. Okay, I caught Vail by surprise. That's okay. He's probably not near a computer listening on his radio. That happens. I'm surprising people. Let's go over to KV2IDX. You get on AMCOM all the time. You also get on TGIF. So I know it depends on what you set up in your config page, but let's say you don't set up anything in the config page and you want to come with DMR straight into these networks. I know you got to use some kind of a prefix. Brandmeister is the biggest, so I don't think you have to use a prefix with Brandmeister. Over to Chris, KV2IDX, if you can talk. What do you do when you get on AMCOM?
Okay. Now, on previous nets, I've mentioned that one of my duplex DMR hotspots has AMCOM on one time slot and TGIP on the other. And the way WPSD is working for me, I'll point to the first diagram that you put in there, where it starts with number 1, Brandmeister prefix 2. That's the way mine would be set up. My TGIF code plug portion of the code plug prefix begins with 5, and Dr. Parrott's office, the actual number is 3690, so I have to put it in the code plug as 503690, so that's 6 digits. In the AMCOM one, that is, oh goodness me, I think it's 31822, but I have to prefix it with 80. That's right. So my code plug that goes to that hotspot has part of it where the prefixes begin with a 5 and the other part with an 8. And that's how I have set it up. And the other thing that's interesting is that it says Brandmeister is a 2. That's only if you change a different primary network. Brandmeister comes up as the default primary DMR provider. But if you were to switch and made, say, AMCOM your default provider, but you still wanted some Brandmeister talk groups, you'd have to prefix them with a 2. And that's about it from here. Back to you, Bucky. KV2IDX.
Okay, perfect. So I put some information into, and you can get this information if you go to wpsd.radio, and if you go to the documents page, and then go to DMR operations and functionality, it'll take you a link to the manual, and if you go into the manual, it explains this information, but it is very confusing. So let me explain a little bit how that works. He's mentioning all these prefixes, and if you do not, so if you use just the default, Brandmeister does not need a prefix. because, it's just by default. But if you change your main default DMR network, you can change it to another one like AMCOM or FreeDMR or other networks. If you want to change it to TGIF, for example, that prefix becomes 2 for Brandmeister. So you'll need a 2 for Brandmeister. What about other networks? And you'll see that I made a list. Let me explain the list. And this is what I got so far. Let me reset, and I'll tell you this list. Okay, you'll know where I'm going with this here in just a bit. So let's say you go back to the default and Brandmeister doesn't have a prefix. That's great, because I use Brandmeister most of the time. So when I start doing this, I'm going to need to know the prefixes. If I want to go into TGIF, that's simple. It's prefix 5. Now, if I want to go to another network like System X, that's prefix 4. What about AMCOM? Why is that prefix 8? Okay. Not just AMCOM, but there's other networks. So there's this thing called DMR Plus. And if you can't find AMCOM, nowadays you can go right in. But in the old days, you had to go into these other networks. Like, for example, if there's a network out there and it's a private network, it's going to be based on HP Link. HP Link is software that you can use to create your own master DMR server. Yes, you can create your own master out there. I don't know if you knew that, but it's possible. And you do that with software called HP Link. All right, let me pause and I'll explain. Okay, HP Link. It's connectivity software, not just for DMR, but it is what other networks is based on. So if you want to create your own DMR mini network out there, and you want to create your own master server for your own DMR network, you use software called HP Link. Now, AMCOM is based on an enhanced version of HP Link called HP Link version 3. They designed their whole network, and they're not the only one. System X also designed their network on HP Link System 3 or version 3. They're not the only one. FreeDMR is another one. So if you go to all these networks and you go to their dashboards, they all look very similar because they're all based on the same software. For example, if you go to the dashboard on AMCOM and then you go to the dashboard on System X, on OpenQuad or QuadNet, the dashboards look almost identical. That's because they're based on the same software, which is a derivative of HP Link. All right, so if you have another network out there, how do you get to that network? It's going to be based on DMR Plus, and then you can go drill down and find your network and use the prefix of 8. All right, so anything that's not the majority is based on prefix 8. And then you have to pad it. So you have numbers of talk groups, and it's 6 digits. So you have to use 8 and then some zeros to finish the padding. So you 800, et cetera, et cetera. And then you use these prefixes to navigate throughout the network. That is if you're using the default of Brandmeister, which doesn't have a prefix, right? All right. Is this confusing? Let me try to make a little bit more sense. All right. For DMR users, the prefix would be 8. If I had my own HP Link master, it would also be 8. If I want to go to DMR, FreeDMR, it would also be 8. Okay, but you go to a different server, and the server, once you drill down to DMR Plus, you'll find the network. Now, these days, I think they make it a little bit easier maybe, but I'm not sure. I usually use Fusion to go YSF to DMR. All right. TGIF, you would use prefix 5. For example, if I'm going to go to talk group 420, I would use 5000420 to pad my talk group. So what you do is you set up a, from what I understand, and Paul explained this to me last week, but I probably didn't retain it. Let me reset and let me think about this for a second. Paul, I'm going to have you check my answer, and then I'm going to have you uh, uh, just reply and see if I was right or not. So stand by. Okay, so this gets tricky if you're creating a code plug. Now, so I know what you can do on WPSD. You can create different profiles. So you can have a profile for Brandmeister, you can have a profile for TGIF, and you can also have a profile for AMCOM. So then you configure these prefixes into your configuration, and you don't have to worry about it, right? But if you didn't do that, you would have to key up with a group call of 8, and then you can navigate with a private call. So you key up with a group call, and then you navigate with a private call. Now, that's the way I understand it. But let's go over to what I want to talk about on XLX. Why am I talking about all this stuff, and now I'm going to switch over to XLX? Because we treat XLX kind of like a DMR master. That's how you navigate with DMR. So when you want to connect with XLX, you have to have a prefix and you have to navigate, just like you navigate talk groups. All right, I'm going to have Paul verify what I said and maybe add your information as well. So over to you, Paul, from Bucky W0SUN.
Yeah, W0SUNZL2BZ. Yeah, Roger Bucky. Yes, I understand where you're coming from. Yes, if you have Brandmeister as your default network, then yes, you need an 8 prefix on the if you're going to access MCOM. So that's true, and I think the other one is the TGI if you need a 4. So that confirms what you said, over.
Okay, great. Excellent. All right. So what if I want to connect to XLX 303, but I don't want to come in through Brandmeister? So we make it easy for you. We just have it linked. So we have our XLX 303 reflector, and we open a request with Brandmeister, and they link it over to their master server. In this case, we have XLX 303 linked to Brandmeister master 3102. So it's all done, and we have a Brandmeister talk group 31088. And what Brandmeister does is in that negotiation, during that open request, we request it to go to module D. So they will link in from their master server when any traffic comes in through 31088, it gets mapped over to module D. All right, that's great. But what if you don't want to come in on Brandmeister and you want to go direct? Yes, with the DMR, that's the beauty of XLX multi-protocol reflectors. That's what I'm getting at. So let me bring this home. All right, let me see. Okay, so no questions yet. Let me keep going. This is great. And let's go a little bit deeper. So, let's see. Hang on, I got to reset really quick. Okay, so if I bring up a brand new XLX reflector, brand new, I register it, or I put it out there, and I get it on the system, and now you can show up, you can see it. So let's say I bring up XLX 022. All right, so I want you to go to XLX 022. So it's not on Brandmeister. How are you going to navigate without Brandmeister? So that's what the beauty of XLX multi-protocol reflectors. That's the cool thing. So if I want to connect directly to the reflector, because it's not linked in Brandmeister, so I would make XLX 022 like my master reflector, and then I could navigate, and the prefix for XLX is 6. So it's almost like it's a DMR network. So DMR plus networks, individual master networks are prefix 8. If I want to go to TGIF, it's prefix 5. If I want to go to System X, it's prefix 4. And these are all documented, right? And if I want to go to XLX, it's prefix number 6. What does that mean? So I want to bypass Brandmeister, and I want to come in with a talk group of 6. Once I do that with a talk group, a group call, then I'm anchored in to the XLX reflector. Remember, I have to go into the configuration, and I have to tell the configuration that I want the master to be XLX. All right, so once I make the master XLX, then I'm set. Then I want to key in with talk group 6, group call. Then I want to navigate with a private call. How do I know what those talk groups are? Well, here's the secret. Let me, if you go to XLX 303, and I'm going to put the link in there, then you can navigate, and this is the trick right here. Stand by. Okay, I'm looking for my screenshot. I had a screenshot of this, and oh yeah, there it is. Okay, I found it. So I'm going to add this screenshot. If you aren't in the chat room, you'll be able to see it if you go to coloradodigital.net, click on the dashboard. There's a dashboard link, or there's a dashboard on the system. So you got different tabs. Go to the dashboard tab, and it'll take you right to the link. If you want to go directly to the dashboard, the website is coloradodigital.duckdns.org. So you can go there, and let me put that link in there. Here's the link. Stand by. There we go. And I've got it in there. So I put in a link, and if you follow me on the link and you click on modules, you're going to see what I'm talking about. If you go into the chat room, I've got it really simple. So you've got the DMR navigation right there. And so if I want to go to module D, it's going to be 4004. If I want to go to module A, it's 4001. B is 4002. 3 is 40, well, let's see. Module C is 4003. D, okay, there, et cetera, et cetera. You get the idea. Let me reset. All right. I know this is pretty confusing at first, but so now I want to link in to 303. So if I want to come in on module D and I want to bypass Brandmeister, I just want to make, so step 1, make XLX your master. Step 2, key in with a group call of talk group 6. Step 3, navigate with the correct private group. And the correct module for D is 4004. So if I'm going to go to module D, that's the last thing. I just key in 4004. Actually, I have to pad it. So I have to either, yeah, so, I'm going to let, before I get too confused on that, yeah, there we go. Yeah, private call 4004. All right. Let me see if, maybe Jared, I think he was pretty tied up tonight, but Jared, are you, listening? I think you must be listening. You use this type of navigation all the time. I want to hear from you. W7FMJ, I don't know if you want to come in or not, but I'm going to surprise you and call on you. Go ahead, Jared from, this is Bucky. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Bucky. I do use it, but I don't do it the way you described. I have all the different modes enabled, and I just use a couple of dual time slot hotspots. But yeah, Navigate XLX, in order to switch modules, you need to do a private call with the 4000 command, 4001 for 10, through 4004 through, C or D actually, and then onwards. And then you have to go back to talk group 6 public call to transmit. So yeah, it's a little bit different until you've done it a few times, but I've just got it all set up in the code plug, and under the XLX manager, I just pretty much let it sit. You can also use the command to switch the XLX server to via private call, and I think that's 480, or sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head right now. I'd have to look. But you can also switch the XLX reflectors. I just can't remember what the prefix is. You did catch me at a minute where I did have a few free minutes, but yeah, it's kind of nice. I've got all Brandmeister, XLX, Amcom, everything all running on one hotspot on different time slots and whatnot. So it's I mainly use XLX, and for the most part, it's pretty slick once you get it down. And of course, on the ASUS system with DGID and switching through modules on 303 in particular. I know not all servers are set up that way. But anyway, yeah, just I typed in a few things there on the private call. You got to make sure if you change it, you got to do a private call and then do a group call with Talk Group 6 to transmit after you've switched your modules. Back to you, Bucky, W7FMJ.
Okay. We just got a question regarding DGID gateway, and we're not talking about that just yet, but we can talk about that a little bit later when we have time. We're talking about DMR gateway, not DGID gateway. So I will talk about DGID gateway here in just a little bit. That is tricky. Yeah, Brian W1BKW, that's a good question. And we'll see when we can get to that. All right. So yeah, thank you, Jared, so much. That is fantastic. So it's a learning curve. Think about how hard it was to learn DMR the first time. For me, I struggled for 2 weeks before I started catching on. But this was way long time ago, before it was easier. Things were a little bit more difficult. I was using a TYT MD380, and I really I didn't know how to use the face buttons or anything like that. I had to do everything with my code plug, and the only network I ever used was Brandmeister. So that's how I started in DMR. Yeah, those were the days. So it's a lot easier now. Actually, a lot easier. So it is a learning curve. But once you get the hang of it, just like Brandmeister, learning talk groups, learning color codes and time slots and all that, once you get the hang of it, you start catching on. It's no different with XLX. Very, very similar. So again, you come in with a group call of 6, and then you navigate with private calls with 4004. You can just punch it in the face of your DMR radio if you can do that. On an An Anytone, what I do on an Anytone, it's really easy. Let me reset before I time out. So I've memorized this, hold on a second. Okay. I've memorized this on my Anytone. So you long press the 0. So once you long press the 0 and just hold it down with your thumb, that's private, and you can put in a 6. So you put the number 6. Next time, if you want to use a group call, you long press the 0 to switch to group call. So that's the private call. You long press 0, and then you press the pound sign. Once you press the pound sign, it changes to a group. And then you can put in the, so that's, okay, I got that reversed. So to do a group call, you long press the 0, and then you hit the pound sign. Then you press the 6. I got that reversed, sorry. You long press the 0, then you press the pound sign, and you press the 6. Okay, that's it. You transmit it with the 6. That's a group call. Now it's easier to navigate with private calls. You just long press the 0 and put in 4004, and then transmit, and that's it. That's how you do it. And when you want to navigate to another one, let's say module B, I just do a module B is 400. Hold on a second. Yeah, 4002. So once I did that to navigate to another module, I don't have to press 6 anymore. I just do a long press 0 on my Anytone, and I put in 4002, and I switch to module B. And it's so simple. Once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. Okay, I got to get Paul's input on this. Yeah, I got you. W1BKW. That's a really good topic. Thanks for bringing that up. So yeah, I wasn't gonna I don't think I was gonna cover it tonight either. But I saw you put that in the chat room. I'm doing a one-way conversation with the chat room here. All right, let's go over to Paul. I got to hear your input. What do you have to add? Over to you in New Zealand. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, Roger, Bucky. I'm just having. Sorry, I've got the what is it? The Brandmeister hose line running at the moment, sort of thing. Just listening to you. I'm going to have to do some experimentation and get back to you, Bucky, because I need to confirm something. So what you said regarding the 4,000, use of 4,000s. You have to use a prefix on those, but if they work directly, then that's fine. But I need to do some experimentation, so I'll just listen on the hose line while you're talking, and I'll get back to you. Over.
All right, great. Yeah, it still seems a little. I'm new at this myself, so I'm learning it. I've practiced it on my DMR radio, and I've been able to successfully navigate on my XLX reflector. All right, XLX reflectors are great. Just so you understand, they're multi-protocol. When you set it up and you register it with YSF, which is changed, by the way. YSF reflector system is no longer handling that. They passed it to another group, and I'll mention that here in a little bit later. Yeah, that's important if you, and that's only if you're an administrator. So if you set up a YSF reflector, you've got to register that. If you set up an XLX reflector, I believe it just gets automatically registered, but I'm not sure. But you can get to any XLX reflectors with the YSF network. You can do it with your hotspot if you go to the DMR Plus, or you get it mapped and set it up in your configuration. What I recommend you do is, if you want to use WPSD, you can set up different profiles. If you want to use Pi-Star, you're going to have to learn how to navigate with these prefixes, because I don't think you can do profiles on Pi-Star. That's one thing I like about WPSD, because I really like those profiles. All right. All right. Let me think where I want to go next. Stand by. The prefix for XLX will always be 6 by default. If you can rearrange all this stuff if you would like, and you set it up. If you don't like the arrangement and you want to set it up with, if you just want to set it up differently by priority or anything, you can go into a DMR gateway configuration file, and you can actually change the mappings. But I always recommend you just use the default. So the prefix for XLX by default is always going to be 6. So, all right. So, Jared is saying something in the chat room, but I'm not sure how that works. So I've never tried it that way, but I don't know if you're still available to talk there. You want to explain that? W7FMJ, if you're still going to be around just for a little bit longer, maybe you can explain that, because I think that's important.
Yeah, sorry, Buck. EW7FMJ. I had to get back to the radio. Yeah, I didn't fail to mention that the 4000 is the commands in general, but by default, WPSD and I think Pi-Star, you have to prefix 6 with everything. So, like, to do your module changes, you do 6 4000, like 6 4000 for module A or ID 10 on 303, and 6 4004 for module D. And then you have to go, and that's all private call. So remember, to change the modules has to be done under a private call. Then you have to do a public call back to talk group 6 to talk on said module once you switched it. So yeah, it's a little confusing, but just remember 6 by default is the prefix for changing modules, and also talk group 6 public call to talk on it. And once again, there are private calls to switch the modules. So once you've got it set up, it's really quick and easy. I just don't even think about it. I do like Bucky says, long press 0, select private call, put in the number for the module I want, and switch back to talk group 6, public call. So, and I have that also set up as my save talk groups. So it's just real quick. Just sounds confusing at first. I just recommend people give it a try and goof around with it. Muscle memory. Nothing better than muscle memory. Back to you, Bucky, from W7FMJ.
So let me summarize. What Jared is talking about is, if you're using Pi-Star, it works a little bit differently, and I'll tell you why. If you're using XLX and you want to navigate, you got to do a private call. If you want to go to module D, you got to put in the entire 64004. Okay, and if you want to go to module A, it's 64001. And make sure I got this right. So, and the reason is, that's the way it used to work. What Chip did, W0CHP, who came up with the WPSD version of Pi-Star, is he integrated DMR Gateway. So he went a step further and integrated that DMR Gateway into his software, and that's why you can do the group call and the private call to navigate, which makes it really nice. If you go back to Pi-Star, it doesn't have that tight integration. And he explains that on that document I told you about. He goes into the whole thing and he explains it. And so I read this like 10 times, and I'm starting to understand what he's doing here. So that's why it's a little different on navigation with Pi-Star versus WPSD. Let me know if anybody has been playing with this. If you got any comments, please let's hear your comments. You might know this even better than I do, so that would be great. Anybody who wants to comment on this, come in with your call sign. Okay, so if you go to the modules listing, you can see all the ways to navigate. So that's the beauty of multi-protocol, is every radio navigates in their own way. So if you're familiar with your DMR radio and that's all you use, you can really understand this. And you're always pushing buttons, you're always going talk groups, you navigate with talk groups, that's what you understand. If you're using DSTAR, it's just like any other reflector. You're navigating with links and unlinks, and you have to have so many characters, and you have to do it a certain way. So DSTAR does it their way, DMR does it their way, and Fusion, they do it another way. So Fusion now can navigate with their own radios with a whole different system. So everything I've been talking about, if you're not using DMR and if you're only using Fusion, all this stuff you don't have to worry about. Fusion has their own way of navigation. And if anybody has any questions on DMR, let me let me know now before I transition. So we are at past the top of the hour, and let me see if anybody has any questions or comments. Please connect with your call sign. Okay, what I want to do now is Chris, KB2IDX, if you're out there, can you bring us up to speed on who's checked in on ham.live, please? I'm going to let you do it and give me a quick break, and then I can transition over to KB2IDX from W0SUN.
Okay, before you go, there's 2 marks in there. Just tell me which one you left off at.
I had to go look. I left off with Kevin AI4X, so you can take it from there.
Alrighty, got it. Alright. We got W0, WD0CIV, AF0AS, KF0ODD, W7FMJ, KJ5EBU, KF0LPT, and KN6WEF. And that brings us up to 44. And I'm just going to remove, yes, you did already. Okay, cool. And another graphic just got in there. So that's got us caught up. We are at 44. And it's back to you, sir. KB2IDX.
All right, you're listening to the Digital Learning Net. You're participating in that net, and we're here every Wednesday, starting at 7 o'clock Mountain Time. This is W0SUN, and with Chris, KV2IDX, in Bloomington, Indiana, and this is Bucky in Denver, Colorado. All right, check out our website at coloradodigital.net, and it's got some interesting stuff out there, and I do need to update a few pages out there, so I'll get to that hopefully this week. All right, so I've been talking about DMR navigation, and it sounds really technical. Hopefully I can just do a quick summary. All right, so if you're using WPSD, and I would recommend if you're using DMR radio, duplex hotspots are great. And if you really want to use your DMR radio to the fullest, get a duplex hotspot. It really takes advantage of time slot 1 and time slot 2. If you're using Fusion or D-Star, don't even bother. You don't need to use a duplex hotspot. It's not going to do anything for you. You can just use a simplex. But DMR, because of the duplex hotspot and because of the nature of how they operate, because they can do time slot 1 and time slot 2, they can really, really take advantage of that duplex hotspot. If I had a DMR radio, I would definitely use a duplex hotspot. And I'm still getting up to speed on my DMR radio stuff. So my challenge to myself is to use DMR radio a lot more than I've been. I come from a Fusion background, so I'm really still really getting into DMR these days. So it's pretty fun. So let me reset, and I will continue. Okay, so just a quick summary. DMR, navigation on a WPSD hotspot. A group call, once you put your XLX 303, if you want to navigate on XLX 303, make it your master. Just like a Brandmeister master server, but you choose XLX and make the XLX your master. Once you do that, you can use a group call of 6. And then once you do that, you can navigate with the private call of 4001, 4002, etc., etc. Let's go transition over to Fusion. Fusion navigation. If you're using WiresX, they make it so simple. Yaesu makes the WiresX network extremely simple. It totally relies on the WiresX mode to switch rooms. That's how you navigate. Do you use DGIDs? No. You don't use DGIDs for WiresX. You don't even use them. So if you've been using WiresX all this time and you don't use DGIDs, don't worry about it. You don't need them. If you use a YSF reflector, you don't need to worry about it. YSF reflectors is just one place. You don't need to navigate. So I would call this vertical navigation. Once you get in with your WiresX mode, you go into your reflector or you go into your room, you're done. End of story. When do DGID's navigation come in? Let me reset and I'll tell you. All right. Navigation on some networks. There are many networks out there besides WiresX, believe it or not. You've got different ways to connect. Now you got WiresX, right? We know how to navigate on WiresX. You go into WiresX mode, you change the room, it's great. You don't worry about a DGID. Even if you change your DGID, it's going to ignore it. It's totally going to ignore it. All right? So let's put that aside and let's talk about the other networks out there. You've got YSF, you've got FCS, you've got YCS. you've got AMCOM. AMCOM's got an IMRS server. So how do you navigate in these different methods of networks? How you navigate is using a system of DGID navigation. XLX is not the only way. You can get in on the YSCS network and actually tie into their AMCOM server. Their AMCOM server, let me reset, I got a cough, hang on. So this is cool. John Kruk manages an AMCOM IMRS server. All right, so you can actually put in a request. If you have a Fusion DR2X repeater and you're not using WiresX, you can set up a package of software that Yaesu provides called IMRS. You can navigate with that IMRS server and open up a request and get assigned a DGID from AMCOM and tie that into your AMCOM software so you can navigate to a DGID assignment, and then you put that in your IMRS server, and then you tell your users they have to navigate with a certain DGID. If you want to go to other network assignments on that IMRS server, for example, if you want to go to a different talk group, some administrators have assigned their repeater to a DGID assignment. Now, if you want to link in through AMCOM, you can navigate with DGIDs. Can you navigate to all those talk groups? No. Only certain talk groups have taken advantage of the DGID system with the IMRS server. So that is an option. Just keep aware that using that IMRS server is a pretty cool thing if you're a repeater owner and you don't want to use WiresX, but you want to use your IMRS server. You can tie in one of your DGIDs into AMCOM. What other networks can you tie into? There's a lot out there. You can navigate over to YCS, and you can go to AmericaLink. You can go to all these other networks out there, and that's another, I will cover that in the future. But yeah, there's a lot of networks out there, and there's a lot of things you can do. It's pretty exciting out there. So there's a whole nother world out there. Let me reset. So what this allows you to do, if you tie in your Fusion repeater into AMCOM's IMRS server, what that allows is people coming in through a hotspot can actually navigate to the YCS network, and they can put a DGID and go directly to your repeater. And you're also tied into an AMCOM talk group. So DMR users can navigate to your talk group, and Fusion users can either do two options. They can navigate to the YCS network, which is tied into your repeater, or they can use YSF to DMR and just navigate to AMCOM in general. That's what I'd like to do. So there's all these different methods, and there's all these different things. We're going to talk about that in the future. It's pretty exciting stuff. So DGID navigation is used in many networks out there when you're not using WiresX. Now, how does that apply to XLX? Okay, so we've established now, if you're not using WiresX, navigating with YSF on an XLX reflector or other networks, you navigate with the DGIDs. It becomes very important that you learn this if you're not on WiresX and you want to take full advantage of your hotspot and navigate. So there's all these XLX reflectors out there. Can everyone navigate with DGIDs? No. Some XLX administrators don't cater to the YSF. They only want DSTAR, for example. So they turn off DGID navigation. So if you connect to an XLX reflector out there, somebody did that the other day, and they said, Bucky, it's not working. I can't navigate. Why is that? It's because they turned it off. But there's a lot of XLX reflectors that don't have it turned off. XLX 303 is a great example. America KCY, do they have an XLX reflector out there? That's how their DSTAR users come in. And they do not navigate with DGIDs. They have one module and one module only. They keep it simple, and you tie in and you go directly to module A. You don't have to worry with DGIDs on KCY. But over on XLX 303, you can come in, and by default, you come into Colorado HD. Think of it as a conference room. So you're in a conference center. Think of XLX 303 as a large conference center. And this is how you go to room. All right, let me reset. So when you come in on XLX 303 and you punch in your number on YSF on your Yaesu radio, and you come in with 30300, that's the number to get onto XLX 303. So once you navigate to XLX 303, you enter our conference center. The big conference room is Module D. By default, we put you into Module D. Think of it as DGID 13. That's DGID 13. That's the default room. So when you're coming in, that's like the address for DGID 13 is Module D. Now, if you want to navigate to one of our other rooms out there and leave the main conference room, you can navigate and change your DGID. How do you do that? It's really simple. Let me tell you, on some radios, this is how you do it. If you're using an FT2 or an FT3, if you're using an FTM 400, this is how you do it. You hold down the GM button. That's the GM button, the group monitoring button. You hold it down, you long press it. Once you hold that down, it brings up the DGID menu. Once you bring up that menu, the only one you have to worry about is the transmit. That's what changes your room. So let's say I want to go to Module B. That address is DGID 11. So I hold down the GM button, and then I press it one more time, and it lets me tune the tuner to change the DGID from 00, which is the main room, and I want to go to room number 11 and come into Module B. So I switch it to DGID 11, and then I press GM and the back button, and then I can transmit. And once I transmit and key up, it's the hotspot passes that DGID over to the reflector. The reflector receives that DGID and moves you over to Module B, room 11, DGID 11. It's that simple. It's pretty easy once you get the hang of it. So many networks, when you see DGIDs, now DGIDs, you have 00 from 00 to 99. You have 99, you can use so many different navigations. Some other networks, they use DGID 89. Some other networks are assigned DGID 44. It depends on the network. You have to go to the website and then find out the DGID system and go to that DGID. I'm going to place links into the different networks, and then you can see what I'm talking about. It's pretty cool stuff. So with an XLX reflector, now I came in and I changed the room to number 11, Module B. I want to go back to 13. Well, I want to go back to room 13. That's the assignment for the main conference room. So all I do is press the GM button and then go into the DGID, tune it to number 13, and then boom, I'm back. I can do that, or if I turn off my hotspot and turn it back on, it erases all the DGID stuff. So if I want to change my DGID back to 00, I transmit with 00. It starts all over and I go back to module D. Now, a word of caution. Don't forget to reset your module, DGID, because some people accidentally leave them on. And so when they transmit, they think they're going to operate on module D, but they end up on B. You don't want that to do that. So you want to remember your DGID setting. So if you accidentally get skipped over to another module, that's why. Let me talk about the FT5. That's a little bit different. Okay, the FT5 doesn't use the GM button like the other radios. A lot of the Fusion radios use the GM button to get into the DGID menu. There's one or two Yaesu radios that don't do that. I forget, I think maybe, I don't know, the FTM 500, I still think they use the GM button. And the FTM 200, they still use the GM button. The FT5, let's take that radio. If you long press the GM button, you're not going to get into the same menu. I don't know why they changed it, but they did. What you have to do is you have to press the F button, the function button, and then it takes you into a touchscreen system. And if you go into that touchscreen menu, there's a DGID in the left corner. And if you don't see it, you have to press the forward and the forward, or the back and the back, and then you can go into the right menu. If you know your FT5, this makes it really simple. But all you do is quickly press the function key, the F button, and then the DGID is right there. You touch it with your finger. It's a touchscreen selection, and then you get into the DGID menu. Then you just touch it again, and you can twist it and change your DGID. So that's how the FT5 works. All right, that's pretty much it for tonight. And next week I'll give you an example of some of the networks that you can get into and navigate with DGIDs beyond the XLX. So yeah, that's pretty cool stuff. I just wanted to cover that because I haven't covered that for it's been about a year and a half since I've talked about this. All right, this is W0SUN. Real quick, do we have any other questions or comments for the net? Please come out with your call sign, and we'll get close to calling some over-the-air check-ins. Okay, no questions or comments. I think this is a pretty technical night tonight, and thanks for tuning in. I hope you learned something. I hope you gained something. I've been covering navigation last week with D-Star. Tonight I covered DMR and Fusion, how to navigate on XLX reflector. It's pretty fun. Try jumping into different XLX reflectors and try navigating. It's pretty fun stuff. So XLX 022, XLX 720, these are some of the reflectors that I use that you can navigate to. XLX 372 is another one. Yeah, we got a few of them out there. Let's see if I'm XLX. Let me see. Yep. So those are some fun reflectors that you can go use. All right. Let me see if anybody wants to check in over the air. Anybody over the air? Please come now with your call sign.
This is Kilo Zero Bravo Tango Charlie Makaya checking in from Grand Junction today.
November 5, Yankee Alpha India, N5Y, it's John, and I'm checking in from Amarillo, Texas.
Okay, great. I left off with John, KN6WES. Good to have you,